Hey guys, we're back with Paul Hansen. We're going to talk a little bit about the resources you can find online with things like, Google Earth and Bing Maps and stuff like that to use satellite views to help you out on your next fishing expedition. Thanks for coming on, Paul. Hey Paul, thanks for coming on. How you been doing?
Hey, good, John. Happy Memorial Day. We're pretty dang blessed to have a wonderful country as we do, and all the guys that laid down their sacrifices for us to be able to, fish and kayak in a country such as this. This is, it's a day of memories and day of celebration for all the hard work and the lives and sacrifices that people made. But I'm doing great. And enjoying the great time up here in Minnesota. Summer is upon us.
Yeah. It's nice and warm outside. I know we both the last couple weeks have been pretty hard. My condolences about Trapper Rudd passing. I know you guys are really tight, and my father passed a week ago. So it's been a rough month so far. We're just talking about that.
Well, thank you, and thoughts and prayers out to you and your family as well, John. It seems May, as we were talking before we went on air, that May is kind of a tough month. Your father passing and my best friend, and now my uncle passed away last night. So it was like the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
So, but we're blessed to have each other as friends, and I look forward to doing more of these and finally getting out with you and fish. But
thanks, Paul. And you're always welcome to come on. If you ever need anything, let me know. I'm sure the other guys watching this feel the same. We're fishing communities, we're really tight knit family, and we're all here for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you and I both do it. We both do a lot of traveling. You luckily get to travel more than most people because of your job. But and myself, when I've traveled around or when I've moved, the main thing I use is Google Earth. I know there's a couple of different versions like Google and Bing and things like that, but you can compare and contrast them. What do you usually do when you're going somewhere new? What are you mainly looking for with Google Earth?
Well, the thing is that of all the travels that I've done all over the world, Trapper and I have traveled all over the world: Indonesia, Micronesia, Belize, Africa. We've been all over the world. And when we find a place that we want to explore, we use Google Earth and start pinpointing places that we think that are going to be good places, because the resources in a lot of these third and developing countries are really not that good. And most of the people in these countries, they're fishing for sustenance, not for sport like we are. So we rely real heavily, and we did rely real heavily on Google Earth, and just a straight Google Earth, and that way we could pinpoint, we could see tides, we could see how things are affecting, and not just look at it that from when it came out recently, but you can go back into Google and see what it was maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, so you can see the evolution of erosions and things like that. And then you can start to plan out what areas you should fish.
Yeah, like that's what I always tell people when they're trying to fish a new lake or going somewhere tidal. Just by going back on older satellite shots or going by different satellite, vendors per se, you can see. If you're on a lake, you can see one satellite view will have a high water picture, one will have a low water picture, high tide, low tide. You can actually see, say, summer shots versus winter shots. You can actually compare and contrast so that, obviously if you just go by the one satellite view you see, you show up, it may be totally different because the picture was taken when there was a really high water, day when the satellite passed overhead.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we've taken all that information. When we started doing some exploring on the Amazon, we knew that there were some possibilities in other parts of the estuaries and other tributaries of the Amazon, the Rio Negro, to be specific. So we were able to pinpoint these areas. Once we pinpointed the areas, then of course we needed to get permission from the tribes that were controlling that water, because the tribes control the water, not so much the government, because they're very much left alone in the Amazon. So we had to do some trading and bartering in order to get into those areas, but it ultimately paid off for us. And when you start, like you said, looking at different things, whether it's TerraServe or whether it's Google or Bing or what have you, and USGS maps as well, can give you all the information. You just need to condense it in and decipher what's going to be more beneficial to you. Once we got all that information, then we were able to put it into our handheld GPSs. The Garmin's are great for that. So we just punch in our lat longs, we keep logs, and we just punch all that stuff in. So when we got into that country and fired them up, we were able to pinpoint those areas and get in and say, yeah, this was really good, or no, it wasn't good. Maybe the time of year was bad, depending on the migrations. So that's how we used that resources online to better our fishing all over the world. So it definitely makes sense that if you're going to, you're going to bass fish a tournament that you're unfamiliar with, start looking at those maps. The good thing we have here in the good US of A is that the internet is so readily available, of course, and everybody's talking. So it's kind of that bragging boards that we see out there where we can find out what baits have been using, what lakes have been hot, so on and so forth. So that's just gathering the appropriate information that you need to be a better angler and be more successful.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes in handy. Like, again, most of my experience is using it with tournaments or when I've moved somewhere. But, I mean, if I'm going to a lake I've never fished before or a river, I'll take, screenshots from Google Earth and then put them in those cellophane, paper dividers for like a binder. And I'll tape the top of it and I'll shove them inside my boat. So when I'm out there, I can actually get the shots and I can actually look and know what's around every corner and every bend. And then, of course, you can usually tell if you're lucky with the time the shots are taken, where sandbars are under the surface, grass beds, lily pads, rock structures, things like that. And you can tell where roadways come close to the waterline too. And then the cool thing is too, say if you just go online, just go put in an address on Google Maps or Bing, and look on a map of how to go from A to B to get to the location, then you can toggle back and forth between the satellite view and the street view and tell how close that point where that roadway is to where you can launch. So you can going between the maps and the satellite view also, to me, is a really big plus.
Yep, absolutely. And like you're saying, going back to the tournaments, I've got a national qualifying tournament in July. So what I've started doing right now is that we had high water, now we got low water, now we're going back. So I'm starting to look, get more ideas, and then I will start fishing it a couple weeks ahead of time and then pre-fish it a few days before the actual tournament. But they can be so helpful, and I think so many times we get frustrated. We have the lake maps, everything's in these things here and all that, but it's great to know the depths. That's great. That really helps you target. But to get a better understanding on the satellite image and see where there's down trees and things like that really, really help. And if you upgrade to a higher quality satellite program on the Google Earth or the other ones, you can really get it in some tighter shots. And we use that specifically in Mexico. We were fishing the border of Belize and Mexico, and these cenotes they're deep in the jungles. And we found out that some of the areas we possibly had hit hadn't been seen since the Mayan days, which is a long time away. And we were able to get into snook, where we successfully had snook. I think we had 11 over 20 pounds and 2 over 30 that day. Those areas wouldn't have been touched if we hadn't done our homework. So use that to your advantages, and that's what I'll tell everybody. Use the stuff to your advantages. Yeah, it kind of, the diehards and some of the true bloods will go, well, it really takes out the essence. of learning that on your own. Well, you are learning on your own. You're just using the internet and satellite imagery to benefit yourself to have a more successful day.
It's a tool in your tool belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing too, though, is sometimes I'm in a rush using those programs. I'm just looking at it for like an overhead view.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't think about all the resources you have. Go through, download the full program for Google Earth onto your computer. Because you can actually track routes. You can, using it to find distances. Like if you're doing a float, to know exactly how the distance is, you can track from point to point to point and follow the entire drift and know exactly how far you're going to go.
Sure.
So there are a lot of features, and I kind of talk about this in my day life at work, about how we have these robust software programs that most people barely touch the surface of. But you have like Google Earth itself is a pretty robust program, even the basic one you download for free, and most people are just using it typically as an overhead shot. But use these tracking features to make routes and pinpoint waypoints and stuff like that. It does a whole lot more than just getting an overhead view.
Absolutely. And it just makes life much easier.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Paul. We've been on now, 12 minutes or so talking. We just want to give a brief overview. Like I said, always, reach out to Paul if you got questions. He's on Facebook. Hit me on Facebook. PM me on YouTube. Go through Fishyaker.com. We're going to continue to have Paul on here. I'm probably going to talk to him a little bit offline here. But got any final words for anybody, Paul?
No, not at all. We were kind of talking. I'll be starting my own YouTube, and I already have the page as Kayak Angling Pursuits. And I've got some of the things that have been on Adventure on the Water Pro staff, and we've got some other things in there from repairing kayaks. And some of the things that you and I have already talked about have come from those videos and have brought into the deeper conversations with you. But no, everybody have a wonderful day. Enjoy. Be safe out there. The water's still cold. It's if you're in the northern latitudes, it's still cold. So be careful out there and make sure you bring an extra pair of clothes and wear your life jacket.
Yeah, and our prayers to everybody down in Texas, with all the water. You're getting hammered. We're thinking about you. But you're in our prayers. Thanks again, Paul. Sorry for the rough week you've had. Everybody out there, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to Fishyaker on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Give us some feedback. If you want to be on a future episode, just hit me up. We'd love to have you on. Thanks for watching. Tight lines. Thanks, Paul.
Yep. Thanks, John.
Fishyaker.com, the original kayak rigging video series.